Have you ever noticed that no matter how hard you work, it never seems to be enough? There's a secret nobody tells you. The game is rigged. And no, I'm not being dramatic. I'm being honest with you in a way that few people will be. Because everyone wants to sell you the illusion that you can get rich if you just try harder, study more, and work more. But the truth is, if you weren't born into a family with money, your chances of getting rich are pretty much zero. And not because you're not smart enough. Not because you don't work hard enough. But because the rules of the game were written for you to lose. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this system works. How it convinces you that the problem is you, when really the problem is it. I'm going to show you why risky investments aren't the solution they appear to be. And I'm going to tell you something that could completely change how you see your financial situation. Because there is a way to beat this game. It's just not the way they're selling you. Look, I know this sounds heavy, but stick with me here. Because understanding this is going to take an enormous weight off your shoulders. And more importantly, it's going to give you clarity about what really needs to change. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe the problem isn't you? That maybe you're playing a game where the cards were already dealt before you even sat down at the table? We grow up hearing that anyone can get rich, that you just need to study, work hard, make the right choices. But when you look around, you realize there's something wrong with this story. There are people working 60 hours a week who can barely pay their bills, while other people seem to float through life never worrying about money. And then you ask yourself what you're doing wrong. The truth is we're living in an era where the greatest financial skill you can have is choosing the right parents. It sounds cynical to say this, but look at the numbers. When you see someone your age buying a house, there's a huge chance that something happened behind the scenes. The parents put down a considerable amount, maybe $50,000, maybe $200,000, maybe more. But nobody goes around announcing this. People don't post on social media a photo with the caption, "I bought my first house thanks to the $300,000 my parents gave me." They post the key, the smile, the achievement, and you're left feeling inadequate. And here's the cruelest trick of the system. It allows microscopic social mobility. If you were born into a working-class family and you work harder than your neighbors, you might get a slightly better job, a slightly bigger apartment. This small victory makes you believe the system works. Makes you think that if you work even harder, you can reach the top. But you'll never be able to jump from your economic class to the class of the truly wealthy. That ladder doesn't exist anymore. What exists is a treadmill where you run faster and faster just to keep from falling off. Think about it with me. Do you know anyone who started from absolute zero and got rich working a traditional job in the last 20 years? I'm not talking about getting comfortable. I'm talking about truly rich. Probably not. Because the doors that used to be open have been closing one by one. Wages stopped keeping up with inflation. The cost of housing skyrocketed. Education became absurdly expensive in many places. And meanwhile, those who already had money saw their wealth double, triple, multiply without even needing to try very hard. They put their money in assets that appreciate automatically while they sleep. The most devastating thing about all this isn't even the inequality itself. It's what it does to your head. Because the system convinces you that if you're not rich, it's your fault. You didn't work hard enough. You didn't choose the right career. You spent money on silly things. And then you carry this shame, this weight of feeling like a failure, when really you're playing a game that was designed for you to lose from the start. And while you're busy blaming yourself, comparing yourself, feeling bad, the real problem continues untouched. Then the magic solution appears. Trading, cryptocurrencies, high-risk investments. You see guys on social media flaunting luxury cars, expensive watches, extravagant trips. They say they did all this by trading stocks, buying and selling assets. And you think, finally, here's the way out. Here's how I can beat the system without needing rich parents. But this is one of the most dangerous traps that exists today. Because trading isn't a way to get rich. Trading is a statistically proven way to lose money. Let me tell you something that investment platforms are required to show. About 75% of people who do short-term trading lose money. 75%. Now think about that. If you enter this game, you have 3 out of 4 chances of coming out losing. And who's winning? The professionals. The people who studied this for 20 years, who work with teams of analysts, who have access to information and tools you'll never have. When you enter the market thinking you're going to make easy money, you're not competing with other beginners. You're competing with sharks. And here's the worst part. Even when you lose, the system convinces you it was just bad luck, that next time it'll work out. I've seen this happen with friends. I gave an investment recommendation that worked out. The asset went up 20%. But they didn't buy when I said to. They waited for it to go up 10%. Then they bought. They made a little money and felt like geniuses. Then they started making trades on their own without telling me. They bought silver and other random things. When the market dropped a little, they'd lost everything. And the excuse? Now I understand how it works. Next time will be different. This illusion of control is what keeps people coming back. It's the same psychological mechanism as casinos. You win once and your brain registers that as evidence that you're good at this. You lose 10 times and your brain registers it as bad luck, as learning lessons. But the mathematical truth is simple. If you're not a professional with years of experience, you're going to lose. And even professionals are constantly wrong. The difference is they have risk management systems. They know exactly how much they can lose without going broke. They don't put everything on one bet. What makes me furious is seeing how this trading culture became the new dream sold to young people. They used to say you needed to study, get a good job, climb the career ladder. Now they say you need to become a trader, digital entrepreneur, content creator. And look, I'm not against entrepreneurship. But when the message is working a job is for losers, you need to risk everything to get rich. That's dangerous. Because you're taking desperate people who are already struggling to survive and convincing them to throw what little they have into a digital casino. And while everyone's obsessed with their own bank account, something much bigger is happening. The entire game is being rigged. The rules are being written by those who already have money to ensure they keep getting more and more. And the brilliant part of the scheme is they've convinced you to focus on the individual instead of the collective. They've convinced you that the problem is you not working hard enough, not being smart enough. Meanwhile, they're changing tax laws to pay fewer taxes. They're inflating the price of assets they already own. They're transforming basic necessities like housing into investment commodities. Think about how this works in practice. You work 40, 50 hours a week. You pay your taxes properly, a significant percentage of your salary. Meanwhile, someone who lives off capital gains, who doesn't actively work, pays a much smaller percentage. In some places, almost nothing. They tell you this is necessary to encourage investment, to create jobs. But the reality is this money isn't creating jobs. It's buying the 10th property, the 3rd yacht, inflating even more the prices of things you need to live. And you know what's most frustrating? When you try to talk about this, when you try to point out the system is broken, they accuse you of envy. They tell you you're just complaining because you couldn't succeed, that you want to take from people who earned their wealth. But nobody deserves billions of dollars while other people are starving. Nobody works 1,000,000 times harder than a nurse, a teacher, a construction worker. The difference isn't effort. The difference is the system was built to concentrate wealth at the top. Here's the thing. Individually, you can do everything right and still fall behind. You can study, work hard, save, invest wisely, and still never achieve true financial security. Because the system is working against you. Every time you save a little, inflation erodes it. Every time you try to buy a house, corporate investors buy entire blocks and inflate prices. Every time you think you're making progress, the rules change to benefit those already at the top. But here's what they can't take from you. Your dignity, your value as a person, your ability to see the game for what it really is. Because once you understand it's not your fault, that you're not a failure, that the system is what's broken, you stop carrying that weight. You stop judging yourself. And more importantly, you stop judging other people who are in the same situation. And when we stop blaming each other, when we start seeing who's really stealing our wealth, then we can do something about it. So here's the question I want you to ask yourself. Are you going to keep playing their game? Are you going to keep blaming yourself, comparing yourself, feeling inadequate? Or are you going to start seeing the system for what it really is? Because once you understand the problem isn't you, everything changes. You stop wasting energy feeling bad. You stop falling for get-rich-quick traps. and you start focusing on what really matters. And here's what really matters: living with dignity, taking care of the people around you, doing work that has meaning for you, regardless of how much it pays. Because they can rig the system to steal your wealth, but they can't steal these things. They can't steal who you are. And when you understand that, you realize your life has value independent of your bank balance. But listen, this doesn't mean accepting passively. It means fighting for the right change. Not the individual change of, I'll work more hours and maybe I can buy a house, but the collective change of, let's change the rules of this game. Because the only real way to beat a rigged system is by changing the system. And the only way to change the system is by doing it together. So if this video made sense to you, if you realized you're not alone in this fight, I need you to do something. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because I'm going to keep bringing content that unmasks this system. I'm going to keep showing you how things really work, not how they tell you they work. And the more people understand this, the stronger we become. Explore the other videos on the channel too. There's a lot of content about how wealth really works, about the mechanisms keeping you trapped, about what can be done. I believe in you. I believe you have skills, intelligence, and strength that this system doesn't recognize. And I believe that all of us, despite the individual battles we face, have the capacity to do more, to improve our lives and help others reach their potential too. Don't let this broken system define your worth. You're worth so much more than your bank account.